So let me greet you all and say hello from the Enterprise Estonia side. My name is Tiina Kivikas and I'm representing EIS, Enterprise Estonia in Germany. So today's webinar is about digital transformation in the Otto Group, Germany. And let me start with the introduction, short introduction. So first, let me introduce you Dr. Jill Wortelker, who is knowledge management manager for the Otto Group and a consultant. Hello, Jill. I hope you can hear me and see me. Hello. Jill basically organized the whole content and the presenter for this webinar after my request. The second presenter is Mr. Thilo Bendler. Hello. I can't see you. I hope you can hear me. Hello.
I'm right here.
Hi. Who is the Vice President and heads the Knowledge Management Department. And the third presenter is Mr. Henning Mielkau. I can see you.
Hello. Thanks for the welcome.
You are there. Thank you. Who is the Senior Present Manager in Digital Excellence in Otto Group. And also I would like to say a warm hello to my assistant, Mari Abel from Estonia. Hi, Mari.
Hello.
She is helping and assisting me with the setups and invitations and everything else. So the short introduction, Enterprise Estonia connection to Otto Group started actually this year already in February as a business delegation from Estonia visited Otto Group in Hamburg. And my dear colleague, Riina Leminski, helped organize this visit. We had a delegation of Estonian companies, as well as Mr. Leppiman, Secretary General of Estonian Ministry of Economic Affairs and Communications, as well Mr. Kaevats, who is the Estonian National Digital Advisor. Of course, after our visit to Otto Group, we invited also Otto Group to Estonia this autumn. But as you see, due to Corona, we needed to postpone it. Though I didn't want to let this newly established connection to cool down. And therefore, I initiated this webinar because I really wanted to show also to other Estonian companies, you who are here right now, what I saw in the Otto Group. And I wanted so much to share it. And through this initiative, I guess I can also have this connection to keep it warm and not to cool down. So I guess some of the Otto Group transformations might look to you also familiar, but also surprising that they call it to transformation. And also some of the transformations might be absolutely new for you, like newly innovations. So I really hope that the next hour would be interesting for you to listen. And Jill, I would like you to help me now also with the presentations, to share them, and if needed, just make short introduction to the presenters as well.
Perfect. Yes. Thanks, Tiina. Thanks for the invite. We are really happy to be here today or this afternoon and share some insights with you. Our first speaker is Thilo. I would say, Thilo, you can maybe share your presentation on your own so everybody has his presentation. And then, yeah, as you said, so Thilo is Vice President of our Knowledge Management Department, so my boss, and I'm really happy that he's here this afternoon. And Thilo, I think the stage is yours.
Thank you very much, Jill. I hope everybody can hear me and also see the presentation right now. I'm very, very happy to be here today because actually, as Tiina said, we were planning to come to Estonia actually already in April, but unfortunately, Corona kind of destroyed these kind of plans, but we are still planning, of course, to come to Estonia because initially we wanted to come to your country to learn about digital development and digital transformation. So we wanted to learn something from you. But as of now, we are, of course, very happy to share what we have learned so far in this journey. Just a couple of sentences about myself. I'm working as a vice president for the Otto Group. I will tell you more about the group itself. My main task is to organize what we call knowledge management, basically to facilitate, to organize the exchange and the sharing of knowledge within the group, so that we learn as much as possible from each other in these times where change is so much an everyday business. So usually we only do this within or amongst ourselves, but today I will also share a little bit what we are doing and what we have done also with you. It's kind of an honor to to share this kind of transformation process with you, because just a few years ago, our business and our business model, mail order business, selling by catalogs, by paper, was well, said to die pretty soon. So many people said this is a business that will not survive, because who wants to buy stuff from catalog in the future? Well, actually, we were not dinosaurs, but we reinvented ourselves, and we survived pretty good, as the group is now thriving and doing very well, especially also now in times of crisis where everybody or a lot of people are actually discovering e-commerce for the first time, and many are using it much more than in the past. So for us, the business is actually doing very well. But this is not something that happened automatically, but we have come actually a long way, and I would like to share a little bit of that way with you. First, a couple of slides so that you understand who we are and what we are, because the Otto Group obviously is not so well known, even though we are not such a small group, but we are a multi-brand company. So Otto is very well known in Germany because we've been in the business already since 1949, but we have a lot of other brands all over the world which are not so well known. Just a few key figures. We are doing 14 billion, or we did 14 billion sales in the last financial year, which ended February 28th of 2020 for us. 8 billion of those 14 billion were actually done in e-commerce or through e-commerce. So that's why we can truly say we are already a truly digital and e-commerce based company. This is being done by about 52,000 people all over the world. Most of our business is in Europe, but we also have companies in the US and also in Asia, in Russia, some and all over the world. Our business is based on 3 different pillars. The biggest one is what we call multi-channel retail, selling merchandise either through e-commerce or also through stores. We also have some store businesses or multi-channel businesses. Most of our companies have their focus on e-commerce, but several also do omni or multi-channel selling the merchandise through e-commerce and also stores. The second pillar is what we call
Thilo,
the service.
sorry to interrupt. Just that you know, you're not in the presentation mode for us. I mean, it's not disturbing, just that you know it.
Better? Like this?
No, it's your like of presentation mode, so I can see all your notes.
I have to change.
Yeah, just
this way.
No, still the presenters mode on. I mean, the other one worked well. It's not a big problem. Okay. You can also leave it like this.
Sorry about that, but then it's obviously I can't change it here. But I have it's no big deal. Second pillar is service. We also are the second biggest delivery company in Europe, actually.
But now it's gone for me. Sorry. Share it one more time, and then I think we're good.
Okay. Thank you, Jill, for pointing that out. Here we are.
Yes. Okay.
Okay, then we'll try it this way. Okay, second pillar, service, delivery, second biggest delivery company in Europe. Only the DHL is bigger than us. And our third pillar is what we call financial services. which is basically bad debt recovery. Service and financial services were spin-offs because initially we only did this for our own group, but now, as many years, we are also selling these kind of services outside. So this is our basic business model. We have about 120 different companies in about 24 different countries all over the world. We are really now digital at heart with 8.2 billion sales. We have a lot of different activities, not only the retail business in the true meaning, but we also have investment in ventures, and we also did several startups. One of them is actually a pretty big one, which is called About You, which is actually a unicorn valued by more than 1 billion euro as of today. So this is basically our business model. But we don't consider ourselves done and say we are on a strong foundation and there's nothing to do. We still see that we have a lot of things to do and ahead of us, because if we look at our competition or competitive arena, we are seeing, of course, new competitors. 20 years, 30 years ago, we had competitors that were mail order companies like us, basically German or European companies. Now our competitors are Amazon, Alibaba, and even companies like Facebook's Tencent and others. So the number of competitors has shrunk, but they are much bigger and much more globally organized. So that is why we need to constantly reinvent ourselves and push this digital transformation. How did we actually transform, and how do we still transform our, let's say, old business model towards a new one? Of course, I don't want to bore you with, let's say, very detailed things that are very specific for our business model, because mail order or e-commerce, of course, is a very specific business model. So I've tried to kind of condense what is it that has made this transformation journey successful so far. What are the factors, the things that we can share that can also be transferred to other businesses? And there are basically three things that, if I look at our journey, which started already 25, 30 years ago, which has made the journey successful, there are three. So let me take you through those three factors. First of all, starting very early. If you see changes and you are waiting too long, you're saying, well, let's wait what the others do. We still have time, our business still works. That's a big mistake. So you need to kind of anticipate changes very early. You have to have some kind of a radar to kind of see these changes and then start very, very early. And in our case, it's not just like empty talk. Actually, this is what we did. For example, our web shop, our web presence is celebrating its 25th anniversary. In 1995, we started our first online presence. At that time, this was done by CD-ROM. Maybe the ones that are not so young still remember, because it was not possible to have a web shop with all those pictures online. We send CD-ROM like discs to our customers. They could put them in their computer and then look at the pictures of our virtual digital catalog. This was 25 years ago. In the meantime, we have, of course, web shops, mobile shops, apps, everything, and also always work on new features and functions. So over the years, we have come from just 9 million euros in 1995 to the 8.2 billion in 2019-20. So this is the journey that we have done, because we started very early. And of course, it was a very long way. It was not done in a year or even 5 years. It was done in 25 years. So you need to have a long breath, but to start early. Second factor in this kind of transformation is you need to find the money to do it, because especially in the first part of the journey, you have to maintain your old business model, in our case, catalog, and at the same time invest in new business model or new channels such as e-commerce. And this costs money. And in the beginning, actually, it costs double money. Eventually, when you kind of migrate your business towards, in our case, new channels, then you can, of course, cut off the old channels. Nowadays, we don't have big catalogs anymore. we spent all of our marketing investments in distance selling, e-commerce, and online marketing. But in order to do this, you need to create the room to maneuver and the budget. How did we do this? We did it in several steps. Of course, we kind of created new companies, for example, like About You, which is now creating money for us. But on the other hand, it's not just creating new income, but also less sexy thing, as I call it. We did also quite a heavy restructuring work on the way, which means to cut costs, to take out costs in order to finance this kind of transformation. This is not enough. You also need to think about how you create what we call new value. In our old business, basically our business was we bought stuff and we sold it to people through catalogs. But this is not enough anymore. If we look at competitors such as, in our case, Amazon or Zalando or Alibaba, they have new sources of income. For example, financial services, selling media data, selling their space on their platforms, on their web shops. So also for us, it was very clear we need to create additional value where we can generate income. One thing that we started very early, we invested in venture capital. Actually, we are still anchor investors in two big venture companies, which are active in Germany, but also worldwide. By this way, of course, generating money, if you invest in the right ventures, this can be very profitable, but also gaining knowledge and insight into startups and successful, let's say, young companies and technologies. This for us is very important. We didn't only do this in external venture companies, but we actually also have created our own group incubator, if you will. So we also have what we call Otto Group Digital Solutions, which is basically a company that is fostering internal startups within our group. So that's also something that we are doing. And as I already mentioned earlier, we also took the risk and did our own really big startup, About You, which is basically a competitor to Zalando, the big fashion online company in Europe. And as of now, About You is doing about 1.5 billion sales. And the value, as I mentioned, was about 1 billion 2 years ago. So that is something that went quite successful, but of course also was very hard. So these are things that kind of enabled us to do this kind of digital transformation, starting early, funding, and also creating new value streams. The question is this enough, or was it enough? And it definitely wasn't. So there's one very important factor, which is not so easy to grab and to describe with figures, to do this kind of transformation, especially if you are coming from, let's say, a more older business model. So there is another very important factor that you need to think about when you do this kind of digital transformation, and that's culture, the culture in the company. And to kind of underline and describe what I mean, pictures tell you much more than words. If, for example, if you look at the kind of what we call the attitude, you can see this is a picture of our board of directors, which is roughly 8 years ago. So this is what you kind of expect from an old world company, retail company. This is what the board of directors looks now as of last year. So you can see there is a kind of a different attitude and atmosphere, because cultural change only works if it comes also from the top. If the top management doesn't really live as a role model, this kind of cultural change, it doesn't work. And this also means we as managers also have to be role models for a change. Not like we did in the old days, one manager stands in front of everybody else and tells them, okay, this is what we do, and this is our strategy, and this is what we want to do. Nowadays, we do a lot more of this kind of collaborative work together with the top management and the employees. We bring people together from the very base of the companies to the top management. Very, very important, because we want everybody to understand why we are doing things. If you want to really motivate people, you have to involve them and also tell them, why are we doing things different? Why is it important to do certain things, also things that are not always so comfortable, and not like in the past, the board stands on a big stage and tells everybody how it's to be done. Now we have much more of these, let's say, collaborative things, and also some common outputs. Like 2 years ago or 3 years ago, we did what we call create something like a common understanding, a common purpose. What do we want to be as a company? What do we want to achieve? And we did this together with virtually all employees in the group to come to set what we call common purposes. For example, to encourage entrepreneurial freedom, very, very important. To strive to delight our customers. These are the people that pay our salaries, and also to continuously develop ideas. Sounds very simple, but it's very difficult to create something like this and to kind of let everybody or almost everybody join on this journey. And it's not only, let's say, intellectual and brain stuff you have to change, it's also the environment. And those of you who work in or for startups, of course, know this, but for us, office used to look like this until very recently. Everybody had their little plans and their little workspace, and it was very, well, kind of very dry, not very inspiring. Nowadays, this is not a stock picture, but it's actually a picture from our new office space. We have created, even in a big company or in big office buildings, we have created very different spaces also to create this kind of room to experience also change. And last not least, also the communication with each other has changed dramatically. In the past, for example, we had, like many old companies, we had internal newspapers and communication. Nowadays, there's much more direct communication, for example, with our CEO or with the board members, or also, of course, because we are a digital company, through digital channels, we have our own communication app, the Otto Group To Go app, where everything is kind of on there, all the communication, chat functions, live streams, everything we do through this digital channel, which is available and accessible for every employee in the group, also through their private phones, so you can also use your own device. So this is, in a nutshell and very, very short, how we kind of what were the important factors for us to kind of manage this digital transformation. Start early, you need to find money to fund this journey, not like a startup, but in a transformation, create new value streams, and of course, think about changing also the, let's say, the mindset, the way that the company is perceived in everybody, from top management to all the employees. And for us, we have now a very common purpose that everybody in the company has now, understood. And we all, have this in our mind, but with whatever we do, it's what we call together, we push the limits. And that this transformation journey is not just empty talk. If I may remind you, we are still alive. We are one of the big players in e-commerce with our 13 billion, and we are right now a portfolio of companies that are doing quite well. We are not quite as big as Amazon, but we are growing, and we have been profitable all over the time. So this is also the difference towards some of the other companies. And what I forgot to mention, we are actually a family-owned company. We are not stock listed, but there's actually a company with the name of Otto, family with the name of Otto, that is owning this company. So we have done this journey together with the owners, and so far we manage very well to not only survive, but actually to develop in this very difficult competitive arena. So much, let's say in a nutshell, what we have done and how we have done this.
Thank you very much, Mr. Bendler. It was exactly what I waited you to tell us, because that was the case what I really myself lived also when I visited Otto Group in the February. at this time, half of house was like a construction place. So we went through with the delegation of the older part, and then we stepped into the newer part. And I can say exactly like your slide, like you showed, it wasn't stock photo, it was reality there. Inside how the people were working and how they looked at our delegation. And as we went into the room where you presented, I also remember that your workers, who were a part in our meeting, they were like not put like that our delegation was here and your workers were here. So they were among of us. So they sat in every like 3 people was a worker from Otto Group. So it felt like to visiting a family. So I saw the new lines there. And I would like to ask you, have you also been like a pilot for the other family-owned big German groups to doing such of transformations like the culture? I mean.
Well, I think we are we are really something like a role model, because many of our competitors from the time before this digital transformation, they are all gone. So we are the only survivors. In Germany or in Europe, there used to be like 3 giant players for mail order. We were number 2. There was another one with the name of Quell, and another one was Neckermann. The other 2 are gone, or we own them. We actually bought the brand, but they didn't manage this digital transformation. So I think we are something like a model for this kind of transformation of a relatively big business coming from the old world towards the new world. And of course, we are also a little bit exotic, because these kind of companies that are family owned with this size and this business are rather seldom. All the big competitors that we have, I mentioned several of them, take ASOS or others, they are all stock listed. Of course, there are some owners still in there, like Jeff Bezos or Jack Ma, but the companies themselves are all on the stock exchange. For us, this is on the one hand a huge advantage, because we don't need to report our figures all the time. There's one person who decides. On the other hand, we have to be honest, we don't have access to that much capital as the others have. We cannot compete with the investments that an Amazon or an Alibaba can take. We can only spend the money that we earn, basically. So it's there's some plus points, but also some things that make life a little bit more difficult.
Thank you. And are the construction works now finalized?
They are finished, but unfortunately the office is empty due to Corona. We had to close our office, but as of 4 weeks, we have now opened our offices for 50% of capacity. So we allow and invite people to come back to the office, but with the necessary distance. So now the offices are very nice and very empty, but we hope this, of course, as everybody is, will end pretty soon.
Yeah, that's what I'm also telling all the time. We can only learn from the Corona time. So thank you very much, Mr. Bendler. I guess we have now time for the next presenter, Mr. Mielkau, who is going to tell us about the innovations inside of the Otto Group. Are you ready?
Yes, I'm ready. I hope you can hear me.
Yes, we can hear you.
Excellent. Just one thing to add. Actually, a few days ago, a new video was published on YouTube about the transformation of the office spaces here. So I can look it up later, but it's really interesting to see, because before I arrived here, it looked even more, let's say, conservative than in the pictures that Thilo showed us. And it's quite interesting to see how the whole place transformed. And I can only recommend it. I'm afraid it's German though. Like the text.
Pictures will tell us more than the words might be.
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead, please.
Okay.
The stage is yours.
I'm going to share the presentation. Please confirm when you can see it.
Yes.
Excellent. Okay. Yeah. So thanks also from my side for inviting me to be part of this. I would like to tell you a little about how we deal with innovation at the Otto Group, also like on a holding level, with a focus on technology innovation, I have to mention. And I'm also going to bring one example of how we dealt with one certain technological advance that sort of hit us a few years ago, which is conversational commerce and voice. Yeah, so that's pretty much the agenda. I'm going to tell you about like how to approach tech innovation at the Otto Group, and then I'm going to bring an example of a group-funded project, which is maybe interesting because of that characteristic. So a few words on myself. I joined the Otto Group in 2013. The offices didn't look as fancy back then, but it was still cool to see the transformation. I was working in like various other online businesses before, but certainly smaller ones. And I joined here the team Innovation Management, where we do innovation screening, evaluation, and the initiation of pilot projects in cooperation with the group companies. I work in a division called Digital Excellence, and we see ourselves as a catalyst for the group companies on their way to digital excellence. So supporting them in their digitization and in their transformation efforts. We do this with three major subdivisions. One is consulting and projects, which is about those transformation processes, not only face to the customer, but also on the internal side. So some tool selection, some internal processes in the background of managing an online business, software tool selection, and so on. We have the consumer-facing products, which is mainly apps and bots. So if you happen to download a mobile app of one of the online shops of the Otto Group, there's a high chance that was actually built by my colleagues in the neighboring division. And the bots are going to be part of the example that I brought later on. And last but not least, data services. So this is like more a bit like the engine part of the product side, so not so much consumer-facing. Things like demand forecasting solutions, product rankings in a shop, like algorithms. They have a data science division, which we also closely work with. So it might sound a bit like a boring no-brainer, but I still want to elaborate at least a little bit on what's the role of technological innovation for the Otto Group in general. I think in the past, or at least what to me seems like the past of the Otto Group, growth pretty much happened among familiar trajectories. So you broaden your assortment, or you widen your assortment, you add new brands or retailers to the group, you change the depth of your value chain by adding logistics and payment services, or you internationalize into different markets. Over the last, I'd say, at least 2 decades, clearly the path of growth and change has been shaped dramatically, or has been disrupted actually through technology. And it had major effects, of course, on how we do our business. And I think two are most important and relevant to point out. One of these is basically the touch points that we have with our customers. So this is actually the title page of the very last full assortment print catalog. Correct me if I'm wrong, Thilo or Jill, I think it came out last year or 2 years ago. So this was the last time that our full assortment was actually available on print. And as you see on the front page, we're recommending everybody to get the app, because this type of touch point is actually discontinued, at least in this form. So the touch points with the customers changed a lot. And the second thing that changed a lot through technology, and this goes back to a bit of the things that Thilo already mentioned, is the ecosystem that we move in is entirely shaped by technology nowadays. While back in the days, most of our competition were actually other retailers or online retailers. Now our competition takes place on that little device, and almost all of them are technology companies. So technology has taken up a huge role for our business. And that means that innovation takes up an important role, because we have to be able to adopt change at any time and as fast as possible. So adapting to change, relentlessly questioning the status quo, and constantly seeking opportunities are all vital elements for the Otto Group. And all of these are basically part of innovation. Coming to the next question, who is doing innovation at the Otto Group? And you might hear me speak and think, well, it's probably you, but you couldn't be more wrong, because there's definitely no one place for innovation. Innovation is always a team sport. You need a couple of disciplines to succeed. And innovation is happening at a lot of different places within the Otto Group. And just to give you a few insights, and a lot of the logos might look familiar. one of them is definitely the online businesses or the operational businesses. So some or many of them have their own business development department, which constantly seeks opportunities or ways of improvement for their own business. But even if they don't, each and every operational team is so strongly motivated to move the needle about how things work for them and to get better in what they do, that a lot of innovation actually, if not most of the innovation in the Otto Group, is coming out of the online retail businesses or the logistics businesses or the payment businesses. So like, I couldn't name all of them here. Another part or another division or a section where a lot of innovation is naturally happening is what Thilo also mentioned, is our venture partners. So their focus is financial ROI. So this is not necessarily entirely linked to what we do in e-commerce, but they bring a very deep market insight, also an international perspective, because they're extremely well connected. They have a lot of amazing experts on their site, many of them well known across the planet actually for their expertise in e-commerce. And last but not least, many of the investments are actually businesses that can, of course, also be of use for an e-commerce business, and they give us an excellent network to access those like champions in their individual fields. And last but not least, also mentioned by Thilo before, the Otto Group Digital Solutions. So what do? They have a very close insight into the core business or online retail, and together with these businesses, they see their challenges. They're very good at like coming up with ideas to overcome those challenges. And their major task is eventually to decide which of these solutions is big enough, so it's a validation process, to actually create a product out of it that can be spun off as a company. And you saw a few examples in the payment and logistics space on Thilo's slides. So all of these are places where a lot of innovation is happening, and I can only say that the sources of ideas and the motivation to really like move the needle and to push the limits, which is our motto, are all in place. And you might wonder, what's the benefit of having so many people and divisions involved in innovation versus centralizing all those processes? I believe there's two major benefits of having everybody involved in innovation. Firstly, I believe people are our most valuable resource, and anybody who has the space that he or she can create themselves or like he or she can define themselves how their work is done and how they can improve it. I think this is an incredible motivator, and taking this possibility away from people in operational business and telling them, do your day-to-day stuff, we deal with the innovation, would take out the motivation out of them, and it would actually waste our most valuable resource, the insights and the ideas of the employees that we have in the group. And a second advantage maybe is, no matter what challenge you see or what solution you have or what business you came across and you want to discuss, chances are almost 100% that you can find someone in the group who has either dealt with this before or is extremely curious about it and is absolutely ready for sparring and discussing this. So you're never alone if you want to deal with innovation in the Otto Group. Nevertheless, there's of course some value in like consolidation. So for things like giving a market overview, a systematic evaluation of opportunities, or sometimes even in support when executing the innovation ideas or product ideas or prototypes. That's of course something where the Otto Group and the holding functions can clearly help. And I'm going to give you a few examples on how actually the Otto Group holding is involved in the innovation process and why that's a benefit. I have two examples where we as a division, very closely working together with the knowledge management of Thilo, Bendler and Jill as well, work as a catalyst for innovation in the Otto Group. The first would be providing inspiration. So as I mentioned, many of the companies have their own business development, which is seeking opportunities also on the market. Nevertheless, next to operational day-to-day business, it's sometimes very complicated to keep an overview of all the investments happening out there. What's my competitor doing out there? Which new startup is coming up? What new technology is coming up, and how do I deal with it? So this is something where we can help because we have that eye on the market, and this is something that we share with them. And we use a couple of different methods to share our insights with the group companies. So as simple as it sounds, it's a newsletter, for instance, which is on a weekly basis sharing news about what happened on the market. We have the market update, which aggregates major trends in the e-commerce industry, and that is something that's actually also discussed on the board meeting. And we have the innovation radar, which aggregates technological topics, has a systematic evaluation, and works as like some form of encyclopedia for the group companies to decide, okay, which are the more promising technologies to follow and which ones maybe aren't. The second pillar that I want to show you is connecting people. So I mentioned before, no matter what idea you stumble across and you want to discuss, you're always going to find someone in the group to discuss it with, or to who's going to challenge it for you. The problem is sometimes exactly that, finding that person, because as Thilo also mentioned, we're over 50,000. So the person who is the perfect expert for you to talk to may be hidden somewhere on some level in a company that you have barely heard of because the group is so big. So getting everybody connected and telling everybody who's working on what and who can support you is also a major task of us. And two examples, one is like the venture camp, which is giving the group companies access to the expertise of the VCs like Project A and E Ventures, which is the venture camp is organized in cooperation with Knowledge Management. And another example is our Masters of the Universe, which is very often, like innovation prizes work in a way, show me your ideas and the best one will be funded. We went the other way around. We said we want to reward those who have been brave already, who developed a prototype, who actually got something into operational business, who can actually see an effect of what they did. We want to give them a stage. And as you can see in the numbers, this is just like the ones following the online feed. We had like 300 in the audience. Unfortunately, something which is not going to happen this year, like a live audience. But nevertheless, you have 500 people seeing promising innovations being pitched, innovations that have proven their value, and telling everyone someone's working on this, get in touch if you're interested. Nevertheless, in some cases, just knowing someone else who's working on it may not be enough. And sometimes the technological challenges are so big that we cannot actually demand one company to solve it alone. It's more of a joint effort, and it can help that people in a holding function actually take the lead in a project. And that is the example that I would like to introduce you to. It started a few years ago and was a research initiative called Beyond Touch, and it's dealing with conversational commerce and voice in the context of e-commerce. So the broader context, it may be a coincidence, there's always 10 years, but in 2017, some major smart assistant devices hit the market. And it looked like another major shift in user behavior maybe ahead of us. And if you see what has been the previous shifts, you can imagine this is something getting us somewhere between nervous and excited, because the previous shifts meant a lot of changes for us already. So the question is, how do we react to this? And what we actually did is we created a project team named Beyond Touch, so not touch anymore, it's voice. And it was the leadership was done by a holding team consisting of people from the strategy and development team and digital excellence and so on. And we tried to tackle 3 different disciplines: strategy, so where or how should we actually act or react to this new class of devices and technology. What do our competitors do? What vendors are on the market that may be relevant partners? What alliances could we create? And what do our customers think about it? Then we had a tech challenge, of course. So which part of this do we actually have to build? Which do we have to own? And which one can we just purchase from the market? This will be the focus of the following slides. And eventually, the collaboration aspect. So, of course, we saw that coming, and so did people in all the other 3 divisions. So bringing them to the table, especially from the group companies, and having a place to discuss the different ideas and approaches was also something very valuable. And this whole project was like group funded. So this was board management budget, which could be used to tackle this technological topic. How did we go along on the product side? Well, pretty straightforward. If you want to do something for your customers, ask your customers, what do you want? And that's what we did. So we got a lot of different answers on what our customers would expect in conversational commerce. Many of the cases, the picture is a bit misleading, were actually in the after sales phase, and many of them were like more chat related. Nevertheless, two products actually came out, and one was voice related and one was chat related. So why voice related? We were early access partner of Google, and it gave us a chance to actually very early on make our own experiences and learn how voice actually works. So how do users react to it? What are the use cases interesting for them? What are the use cases not interesting for them? How do they ask a question if they want to find a certain information? Do they actually purchase via voice? And the Google Action was actually one of the first ones that allowed finishing or like closing a purchase within the assistant. So we're not like redirected to a website or an app. You can actually finish the entire payment process within the smart assistant. And that was a very interesting learning field for us, and it's still in place. So if you want, I'm not going to say it now because my phone's going to go on, but you can actually try that out and shop at Otto if you like. The second is not so much experimental, it's actually very business related. It's a customer care chatbot. So we use natural language understanding to respond to service questions in seconds 24/7. So there's a clear user benefit. It's live in various shops and already has a significant impact on the load in customer service at these companies. One of them is Hamburg, for instance. Another one is Otto inside the app, and so on. Roughly a year ago, this group-funded project actually, because we don't do R&D because it's fun to do R&D, was actually transformed into a product team. So the R&D phase was over. We had a lot of learnings in like strategic advice, market insights. We did a lot of know-how transfer. And at the end of this, we had two products which we wanted to provide to the companies from the group. So from May 2019, it's a product setup, not a project setup anymore. And it's basically software as a service products that the group companies can get from our division. So we as a group, like a holding function, as I mentioned, the apps and bots team run this product and we sell it to the group companies. That is partly like compliance reasons. But this is how basically a research project can actually end in something contributing measurable value to your organization. And that's why I think it's a good example of how to deal with tech innovation as a large group. I'm at the end of a presentation. I hope we still have some time for questions, and I hope I didn't steal too much of Jill's presentation time. Thanks for your attention. I'm gonna stop sharing my screen.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mielkau. Actually, just to summarize your presentation, I have still in my mind that the innovation has a bigger part as realized in the companies, I guess, because if you are creating a place where the people can be creative and innovative, you actually have a new kind of motivated group of the employees, and there can come up more than you're expecting. We don't have in Estonia rather such a big company as Otto Group, but I guess we can also think about how to motivate people more and even motivate the cooperation partners with whom you are like doing some businesses together. That might be I have in my company one very creative person and my partner company has as well, but they never met with each other. So it could become out some new projects, some new product or service. That was the summary what I took with from your presentation right now. I have a question myself, but I would ask first the Taavi Rajur question, who asked in the chat, do you still have a paper catalog in any form, or do you doing any offline advertising using direct mailing? In case yes, then how do you see the future of it?
Yeah, actually, yes, we do. So paper is clearly not dead, but and I recently was lucky enough to interview the Otto CEO for a podcast, and he also mentioned that the end of the main catalog was at that time actually more of a story than actually a major impact on the business, because as Thilo already showed, a lot of the turnover actually came from online already. And what we have to see is that the catalog is not a sales channel anymore. It's basically marketing material. And as part of the marketing mix, paper definitely has a role, a decreasing one clearly. So people don't want to like flip in magazines that much anymore. But all types of different advertising that is printed still play a role in the marketing mix. So there is still a lot of print happening here, clearly. But this like entire assortment catalog is just something that I'm not even sure if I think one or two of the companies in the group still do it, but it's definitely something of the past. But maybe like postcards or like smaller brochures, that is definitely something still happening. And I don't think it's actually ever going to be extinct. Paper is a different way of experiencing something. It's very often not a very ecological way. That's why I wouldn't be too sad if it's extinct one day, but I saw that it's still going to accompany us for a long time.
Okay, and then I have one funny question. Have you ever ordered something via voice helper?
Well, what I didn't say is that I'm actually also the product manager for the bots and action team. So I clearly did, mostly for test purposes, I have to say.
Okay.
Like through our own action. Actually, not so much through other actions, but for a long time, there weren't really many ways you could do this. I learned that Vueling, the Spanish airline, wanted to have actually flight ticket purchase available, I think, on the Google Assistant. That's something worth trying, but I mean, that's a rather high ticket item to buy through voice for an experiment, and not exactly relevant right now, I'm afraid.
If Ryanair is doing it, then we can take it, but I guess not the Lufthansa tickets. But thank you, Mr. Mielkau, a lot from my side. And now I will give you the slot, Jill, to present your 5 takeaways from the Corona time.
Yeah, perfect. Thanks a lot. I will also try to share my screen with you, and hopefully, let me check. You can see my presentation now?
Yes.
Perfect. Okay, so yeah, hi, my name is Jill, and I'm working for the Otto Group Knowledge Management Department for 1 year now. So as you can imagine, I was like half of the time being in the office and getting to know everything, and then Corona kicked in, and we went somehow to new stages. And I summarized 5 takeaways of this last couple of months that I would like to share with you now. So the first one is, as a takeaway, invest in the digital infrastructure. We are now benefiting from the fact that we at the Otto Group were really early adopters of a new way of working and a new working environment. This is also what you saw somehow in the pictures. But even before Corona, we had created the framework to enable people to work from home, so that now around 20,000 of the Otto Group's 50,000 employees do so. But you just do not need the framework, but also somehow the mindset and the skill set to use it right. So mindset-wise, there's this one thing what we have learned from the Kulturwandel, so culture change. This is a process that we kicked off around 4 years ago, and that is to communicate and work together without hierarchies, to network and to work in trust. So I think this is really important now in this remote working time and in this times of Corona. Regarding the skill set, we also from the knowledge management department have done a lot to help the colleagues as much as we could. So we offered more webinars, one-pagers, work hacks. So we shared best but also bad practices of what worked for us, how we organized this new way of working, and we shared this information group-wide. So then second, communication is king. This is really close related to the first point. So as you heard, we have a really decentralized structure here in the Otto Group. So communication is even more important. Now, all meetings, whether those of the executive board, crisis management teams, team workshops, or daily routine meetings are being held remotely via video chat. So we are in the Office 365 universe, so we're using Teams, Yammer, SharePoint, everything that you can imagine, and also, of course, other tools which can help. I think one important point here is transparency. So transparency in communication. For example, our executive board, they have several formats where they inform us as employees about recent developments, but it's not just one-way communication. We also have the possibility to ask questions and really engage with topics. So working across teams, across functions is really important. So this don't stick to your silo, but open it up a bit. And I think it's also important to say, okay, yes, let's of course meet in business context, let's have meetings and get things done, but don't forget to socialize and connect a bit on a maybe more private level. So for example, invite a colleague to a virtual coffee talk, have a virtual lunch with your team members, and also just approach new people and stay connected. Third takeaway from the time is that the power of community is really important. So in the Otto Group, we have around 50 really vibrant communities. They have different focus topics and different targets groups, but they really come from inside the organization. So what you need is here engagement and passion from the employees to really live these communities. So the idea behind the communities is to exchange and to use the power of the crowd. To give you two examples, so we have one initiative that was established during Corona that was called the Truffle Herd Community, like coming from the truffle pig. And of course, it's better to have a herd than just one truffle pig. So this was a platform to exchange on innovative ideas coming from the employees. So this is what you also mentioned before, Tina, to really get some information from everybody, because I'm pretty sure that everybody has a good idea and then just share it and see how it gets up ahead. Another example is All About Assistance Network. That is a community of assistants, but not only inside the Otto Group, but also outside, so across different industries. And they have, for example, established a new format during the crisis. It's a 15-minute talk format taking place each other week. And they have a small keynote, answer some questions, and they just inspire themselves and the others. And there's a really high interest on this format, and it's a nice thing what you can also have after maybe Corona is over. So fourth is don't forget your values. So we have heard about some of our values and the culture change. Thilo mentioned it before. So our shareholders' vision, which was formulated as responsible commerce that inspires. And that emphasizes the importance of business that is economically, socially, and ecologically sustainable. So together with our mission statement and a so-called code of ethics, this vision specifies the framework and guidelines in which we like to develop and operate. And it's important to hold up these values also in this time. So one of the values is health. And of course, as you can imagine during Corona, the health of the employees was really important. So for example, we have established a survey where the employees can answer about their health condition, and you can see, okay, is all going well, or do we maybe need to adapt and make little changes? Another example is from our parcel delivery provider, Hamburg, Germany. They have done an amazing job and established really fast contactless delivery of parcels, so to protect both the customers and the employees. And finally, we have different campaigns going on now. For example, 7 weeks, 7 values program, where employees can engage and discuss about the values in our company. And to wrap it up, I want to close with a quote from our CEO, Alexander Birken, who says, "Stay optimistic, but prepare for the worst." And I think there's nothing more to add. Unfortunately, I think time is over, but maybe if you have any questions, we can say a bit more in the chat. But these are my 5 takeaways for you.
Thank you, Jill. It was very concrete, very short. And I took with me the first idea. As the corona started, we actually organized with our 15 Enterprise Estonia export advisors in the whole world. We organized like a beer evening, like after work, but it was just once. So I think now we have organized so many webinars and stuff online, but forgot about our team. So I will take it with me and ask my team to come now together in the second time. And hopefully we'll do it every week or more often. I can't see any questions right here in the chat, but I'm so happy that we had participants who didn't left and who stayed with us. And I hope it was also interesting for them to hear. And I would really like now to take opportunity to invite you again to Estonia, and hopefully we can meet live, because everything is fine online, but the personal meetings are all above it.
Yeah, I think we would love to do that. I can speak for us. So hopefully, fingers crossed. Yeah, Thilo's also like summed up. So hopefully this will work out. So thanks again for the invite. It was really nice. And yeah, if you have any more questions or comments, you can also leave it in the chat. And we stay in contact, Tina. So if there are any more questions, feel free to forward them to me, and I would be happy to help if I can.
Of course, we are collecting all the presentations as well and putting it online, not online, but sending it to the participants. And then we taped this webinar as well, and going to put it in our online channel and inform people about it as well. And in the autumn, our Scandinavian colleagues are doing also a webinar, an English-speaking webinar, of course, about the Scandinavian e-commerce. And my dear colleague in Germany, she's planning also to do one webinar at the end of the year about e-commerce general in Germany. Then the people can have the answer how the Estonian companies can offer their products. So that's our plans, because e-commerce is booming. Thank you very much.
All right. Thanks for having us.
Thank you. Bye.
Cheers.